I met him through Emerging Vets and Players and Operation Jump 22. I had a little booth there in Oceanside, and he looked fashionable, and he was like, "Man, I'd love to wear your jeans, but he said I can't because of my prosthetic. It's very uncomfortable." And I saw him again at the Marine Corps birthday, and then I said, "There's something that we can do. I'm sure I figure it out." And fast forward, I went through a really rough time. That was in 2019. I got my truck repoed, I had a warehouse and lost that, and I said, the last thing I do, I'm gonna make a jean for this Marine. And I borrowed a car to go to LA, and I met him and his wife, and within 48 hours, we had a jean for him. So he comes back, and apparently it made his daily life easier, and then he can now feel normal in public, is what he tells me. And then, so fast forward to Project 2020, he ends up, and mind you, he lost his left leg and left eye in Afghanistan. And he drove himself from Temecula to Vegas, shows up and is like, "Hey, I'm here to help you out." I was like, holy crap. Okay. It was just super impactful for me, again, finding purpose. Right. And, come to find out, we end up being on the cover of California Apparel News, American Pride, with him on the cover and the story about us.
Welcome to the Transition Drill Podcast. I'm your host, Paul Pantiani. I appreciate you taking the time to watch. So let's get into this.
That's a good setup. I'm impressed. I'm really impressed. Maybe you can give me a little coaching on podcasting, because I think for the brand, it's important too. For
Definitely.
people to, for me to talk about the brand and interview people and tell some of the stories along with other people that are dedicated to podcasting.
Well, I think you've got a unique audience in that you bring a skill set. Obviously, you can talk about the fashion side of things, and there will be an audience just purely for that. But then if you start introducing that audience to probably a large number of veterans that are in the fashion industry that they don't even realize, that would generate more interest in that. Because I'm sure that one of the things that you'd find is they want to be supportive of veteran-owned businesses, but they probably just don't know how many veterans actually do it.
Right. Yeah. And along my journey, I've met one Marine in the industry, and he's been working with me. So we found each other through the industry, and yeah, it's been. I know there's more out there, or maybe people wanting to get into the industry and don't know how to go about it, because it is probably one of the most opposite types of careers from military service.
It's definitely not what people would say. Hey, he went from the military to what?
Yeah, I say machine guns to sewing machines.
There you go.
And it happens to this day.
I've had guests who've gone from law enforcement to the culinary world, and those kind of stories are what really are interesting to talk to people about. Is what made you pivot, so I don't want to say wildly, but widely differing. So going into you, let's go backwards a little bit. Sure. Where'd you grow up?
Oxnard, California. I was born in Port Hueneme, so not too far from here, and then grew up here in Oxnard.
Big family, small family?
Small family of Mexican descent, so got a large family on my mom's side. Dad's side, multi-generation here from the United States. So my grandfather was born here in 1918, and so good, diverse, mixed, large family. So
brothers, sisters?
Yes, one brother, two sisters. Yep.
And growing up, what was life like for you? Were you heavy into sports, academics?
I was more heavy into sports and academics, and
like all of us.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I grew up playing baseball, soccer, basketball, and academics was kind of on the back burner a little bit, but I still did okay. But I found just early on, like when I was in, kindergarten, first grade, when it was time for back to school shopping, like I was fascinated going to Mervyn's, and we had limited resources. So I had to get creative. So my mom would say, all right, you could either get like, 3 shirts, 1 pair of pants, or 2 pants. And so I didn't want to be made fun of at school. So I would get really creative on picking out what outfits and what combinations I would wear Monday, Tuesday, and then like do a little switch for Thursday, Friday. So like you would think my wardrobe was a lot bigger than what it was.
And you were putting all this together as young as 8, 9, 10 years old?
No, before that, I would say like 5 or 6. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where did if you're looking back on it, did you have somebody in your life that was very fashion forward that kind of got you thinking about that?
My mom would, as a kid, I see a lot of pictures, and I was wearing suits as a 3 and 4 year old. And my mom said I would always like put them on and like be fine with it, where most kids would take it off and, scuff up their shoes. I found myself too, like in sports, when it was time to get our uniform, like I was really in tune to that, like more than everybody else. So I was just really into clothing at an early age. My grandmother used to sew, so I think that's where a lot of it came from. She would sew me shirts and outfits, and, seeing the pictures from back in the day, I was like, wow, from a young age. I mean, I was like 3, 4 years old, about 3 or 4. I see some pictures, and I had a Kiss doll, like Gene Simmons. So I played with dolls, but a manly doll, know, and was just the diversity and mix of like color and, was just intrigued by fashion and the art, but obviously didn't know. I had a dream, like I would see Levi's, and I just, as a kid, would be like, man, I wonder what it'd be like to have my name on there, but it was just a dream.
You mentioned your grandmother sewed. Was she actually a clothing maker, or just?
Yeah, she would make dresses and clothes for like my mom growing up and the family, because there was limited resources. So she would get fabric and sew them clothes.
Because we have that in common. So my grandmother's Italian descent, and she was a seamstress when she was still in Italy, not when I was a kid. But I still remember being taught how to sew a button. I mean, obviously she wasn't making clothes or anything, but we kind of had that in common also.
Yep.
So coming out of high school, what were you thinking was going to be your future?
Well, I mean, even down in 7th grade, I took sewing as an elective. And my dad, he's a Vietnam veteran.
I'm sure that went over well.
He pulled me out, made me pick another elective. Fast forward into high school. I took sewing again twice, and he showed up with the counselor, pulled me out both times.
Now, was this home ec or specifically sewing?
It was home ec, but you can pick either cooking or sewing, and so I went for sewing.
I'm sure you were the only guy it's one way to meet girls.
Yeah, it was. But, I mean, I was just so in tune with, wanting to learn how to sew in fashion and just being like, watching MTV growing up and just, following all the trends and whatnot. And so in fashion, in my senior year in high school, well, even 8th grade, I was voted best dressed. I go into high school, senior year, trendiest in the fashion part of the yearbook. And it was always something that I thought about. But another thing that stuck in my head as a kid is my dad brought home a VCR for the VCR videotape of a movie called Full Metal Jacket.
Okay. Every one of us has watched that.
Right. And I don't know why he did it, but it also fascinated me, like, as a kid.
Was he trying to instill the Marine Corps in you? Because that would almost seem like a video that would make you go, no thanks.
Yeah, I think he was trying to maybe deter me from military service, because my grandfather is also a veteran in the Navy, World War II, Korea, Vietnam. And so it's kind of, in the family. But I don't know. I mean, the movie came out, and I just found it to be fascinating, and it just stuck in the back of my head. And so when I was in high school looking to go to college, my dad's like, no, you got to be a doctor, or a dentist. So I was a biology major in college, but I remember fashion school, FIDM, went to my school, and I talked to them, but I couldn't tell my dad. And at the time, the recruiters were calling too, and my dad would like hang up on them, and he'd be like, "No, go to college first, and then if you want to go into the military, then."
How long was your dad in the military?
He was in for 8 years.
Oh, so not a lifer.
Yeah, he wasn't a lifer, no.
But he wasn't pushing you, or was not.
No, he was discouraging it. Yeah. He was in Vietnam in 1967 and 68. So he told me like, "Nah, you don't want to do that. Just like go to college. If you do want to go in the military, go in as an officer," was his recommendation.
Did that end up becoming an option or something you were thinking about?
It was. I was a sophomore in college, and I talked to a Navy recruiter, scored really high on the ASVAB, and he actually told me, "You know what, just finish your bachelor's and then come back." He said, "Because you're pretty squared away." But life took me another direction. So like I was 19 years old, and I was selling and designing soccer uniforms here locally.
So it was in your blood. You were going to be around fashion and clothing.
It just kept coming back, and then I was, I taught myself how to screen print, so I was printing shirts, and then from there, all the local rappers from here in Oxnard were like wearing my stuff, so I was getting a little bit of street cred, if you will. And then I opened up my first little store. I must have been about 1920 here in downtown Oxnard, and had no idea really what I was doing, but it was just trying to figure it out.
Were you selling your own stuff? Or?
Yeah, my own stuff. Yeah. Yep.
And what were you designing at that? Other than doing the screen printing, were you actually making any clothes?
Well, I was making money from selling soccer uniforms, because that was like, and then with my creative side, I think I gave away way more than I ever sold. So, yeah.
Rule number one of not how to succeed at business.
Exactly. Horrible businessman from day one. Sometimes bites me in the butt. I'm very generous at times. But it really, again, I was in college. I switched my major to business from biology. And then in business, I saw all my notes. I was doodling on the side. I wasn't even like paying attention to what was going on, because my creative side kept taking over.
Do you have a lot of what I say would call creative people in your family, artists, that type stuff?
One cousin, but no, not a lot.
So
not a lot of creative people, just hardworking people. So work ethic, definitely.
So you were an anomaly in your family, and I don't mean that in a negative way. Being definitely very artistic in your drive. Yeah, very artistic, and really
I think most of my family just saw that I was pretty much like a weirdo, or kind of just out there, because I was just doing odd jobs and bouncing around like most starving artists do. And did that for a while. Was selling again. I found a niche in sports and soccer, so I partnered up with. He played for the LA Galaxy, Paul Caligiuri, U.S. Soccer Hall of Famer, and
what year are we talking about?
So this is 99.
Okay,
98, 99, and then after that, I had to get a real job. So I was working as a buyer for a forklift company, and I had like a picture.
So you've graduated college at this point, but
I got my AA, and then I was a senior at Cal State Northridge, and I dropped out. Yeah. So that didn't go over very well with the family, but I just couldn't really find myself.
Just not, no pun intended, no passion in just academics.
Right. Exactly. Just the passion for academics and really direction at the time.
At what point, I know you're saying you were making soccer uniforms, but was there a point where you actually ventured into making more mainstream clothing? And when did that happen?
So more mainstream was 2004 into 2005. I started, designing leather jackets, and then doing a little bit more mainstream stuff. I opened up a showroom in downtown LA. I think they had a change in management, and they saw I came with cool stuff, so they somehow let me in there. And Puma, a lot of big brands were there, and then me.
But all stuff that you were making yourself.
Yeah. Some stuff I was making myself, some stuff I was sourcing out, but designing everything myself. From bags to, I had a cool little collection, and I convinced the manager to give me an opportunity there amongst all the giants. I had no idea what I was doing. like I got there and I was like, wow, now what?
Did you have a mentor or anything in this? Or for instance, making a jacket, did you just take a jacket and kind of reverse engineer it?
Yeah, that's exactly, even screen printing. Like I just would go to the screen print supply place in LA and just, all right, how do you do this? How do you make a screen? How do you make a film? And like with everything was just self-taught because I didn't have any formal schooling at the time. And even, I mean, there at the California Market Center, the lady down at the copy center, she probably just felt bad for me of how lost I really was, because I didn't know, like there was a market happening and buyers were coming through and I didn't have a line sheet. I didn't have all my stuff that I needed. I didn't even know what it was. And she kind of helped me a little bit, and she's like, yeah, we got a buying office coming in. And yeah, so I did a presentation to that buying office, and then at the time I needed more money. So,
were you seeing a profit though?
No, I was just like whatever I was making from work, dumping it in there and then spending money on samples. And then I had rent now. And so I took it all the way until like I remember going to the gas station and my debit card wouldn't work anymore. So
you're like, I think I need to reevaluate my life.
Yeah. So I started repoing big rigs. You know, started doing some crazier stuff, chasing people down the highway and kind of, you know, not to the extent of law enforcement, but as far as I can take it of chasing someone down.
Probably equally dangerous though.
And recovering, you know, big rigs. So I did that just to try to make money. And then I bought a big rig myself, finance 1, 2, and then there was a huge diesel shot up similar to where it's at now. This was in 06. And yeah, all my trucks broke down.
So you basically started a trucking company?
Started a trucking company. Yep.
What were you hauling?
Strawberries.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. From here all the way to Portland, Maine.
Long drive. You were driving?
I was driving myself, and then I had a team, another guy that would drive with me. And
at any point in time in all this, are you still trying? You're basically trying to generate money to put back into your fashion.
That's all I was trying to do.
Do you have a family at this time?
My wife was pregnant, and in 07, my daughter was born, and that's when stuff kind of fell apart. So yeah, I lost my house. Had to sell my car, the last car I had, and then I ended up with a bicycle, and I was in good shape, but by then I was already 31 years old.
And so for everybody listening, this is where we're going to turn the corner and say, let's go in the military.
Yep. I remember back to private pile. Boom. And I always knew, like, if I didn't make it or didn't reach a certain level that I needed to, that I would join the military. Like, it was always kind of in the back of my head. And came to a point where, yeah, I just didn't fit in anywhere. And, you know, the problem was I was 31, cutoff was 27.
And not being sarcastic, I would imagine being so driven, wanting to start a fashion brand, going in the military really probably isn't conducive to that.
No. However, sorry to cut you off.
Please.
When I was talking to my recruiter, I saw the schools that were available, because he was like, oh, well, I know you're older. You have some college, you know, you can use a GI Bill. And then I saw that fashion school was one of the schools on the list.
One of the schools that nobody else has ever signed up for.
So I asked him, I'm like, okay, so you're telling me if I join the Marine Corps Infantry, I can go to this fashion school? And he said, and Sergeant Luke will tell you one day, because he'll never forget that conversation. He said, I don't know why you would go there, but it's on the list. So yeah, definitely.
They're even looking at it and go, why is it even on the list?
Yeah, why? That's what he was like. There's a fashion school on there. And, but I knew when I was driving by, when I had the showroom before I got evicted, and I still have my eviction notice from there, but I knew the answers were there. I just, you know, it's a private college though, and like it was more expensive than USC, some of their programs. So at the time, there was just no way I was going to be able to get that knowledge. So I turned to the Marine Corps to restart my life. And when I went in, I'm going
to pause you 1 second.
Sure.
What was your family's take on you deciding to go in the military?
Yeah, my dad told me, he discouraged me. Like, everybody was shocked, especially because typically when you go to the military, you're about 18, 19.
Not in a walker.
Maybe 22. Yeah, not with tennis balls on your walker. And so everybody was shocked in my family.
But were they supportive of it?
But they were supportive to a degree. At first, they were just, they knew I was a little off anyways. So they're like, here's another one. Like, I don't think they believed me initially. They just thought it was another crazy idea because of my age. But I was in really good shape at the time. The only thing is that I was over the age limit. So I found a way. The recruiter said that they're doing age waivers back in the East Coast. And he went to recruiting school with this other staff sergeant. And I got a one-way ticket to Nashville.
Oh, so you could not get a waiver here on the West Coast?
They would not sign it. Yeah, here on the West Coast. So I went to the East Coast. And
did that force you to go to boot camp on the East End? Or?
No. Here's a crazy thing. I go to MEPS, and they're looking at my paperwork, and they're like, wait a minute. It says here you're going to the East Coast, and only girls go to the East Coast from the West Coast at the time. And I was just like, look, man, that's where I'm going, and I'm going to Paris Island. So, but a hurricane hit the East Coast. So they routed planes from the East Coast over to San Diego. And when I'm just waiting to go to, for my ticket to go to Paris Island, then they come back out and they tell me, oh no, you're now going to San Diego. And I'm like, perfect. That's
close to home.
Close to home. I know the weather. That's what I really wanted anyways.
So you got really lucky.
Really lucky.
Jumped a plane to go to the east end of the country to enlist, to only come back to the West Coast to go to boot camp.
Yeah. Yep.
What year are we talking about now?
2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
September 2nd, 2008.
War in the Middle East is in full force.
Right.
You're going to get deployed.
Yep. Yeah. Especially, I enlisted in the infantry, and then from there became a machine gunner. So it was something that I, wanted to do. And
what were you thinking at that time? How long were you kind of giving yourself a timeline?
Yeah, I gave myself 4 years. I said, I was like in an old Chevy that never got driven, so let's take it out for a spin. Didn't do it, when I was younger, but I was, again, in boot camp. One kid outran me by 10 seconds in the final PFT. He ended up going to first recon. And there was like 81 kids in my platoon. So I was solid.
Did you find that because you already had a lot of life experience underneath your belt by the time you went in, did you find that the senior staff kind of pulled on that knowledge, or did the younger guys kind of lean on you for that knowledge?
Younger guys leaned on me. The senior guys, I was, again, really lucky. I had 3 gunnies as drill instructors, which rarely happens. One of them was older than me.
By a day, maybe?
No, he was actually like 3-4 years. He was a senior gunny. And then the other gunny was my age. And they saw I was performing, and it was the other drill instructors that would come in and like pick on me, hey, where's the old guy? And then, they would just talk trash, but I was older and more savvy. So, one drill instructor comes in and he was just like, look, how old are you? And I was like, oh, I'm 31, sir. And then he said, how old do you think I am? And then I told him 45. And then all the other drill instructors start laughing, and then he starts losing his shit. And a lot of the stuff I knew where, it's mental fortitude and in mind games. And so I was just like, oh, here we go again,
Yeah, but on top of that, it's mental, but you've already come in not just with a lot of life experience, but you've had a lot of adversity, trying to keep your company going, losing your company. So a lot of it did you find yourself, I guess, getting annoyed with the mental games? Or were you able to easily just kind of roll with it?
No, it was really annoying, at times. And then to see some of the kids' immaturity, that was, I think, my biggest hurdle, because again, they believe in group punishment, and you're only as strong as your weakest Marine there. And we got some guys that would bust out crying. 2 of them, they ran away during boot camp. They took off from Camp Pendleton at night, and one of the guys was
I've had a couple guests tell me stories like that. They just down in San Onofre, just leave their gear and gone.
Yeah, gone. So one of the idiots, I remember we were checking in and the guy's like, "Hey, where are you from?" And I was like, "Are you serious, man? Like, we're not in the street, you idiot." And then he woke me up at night and he's like, "I can't take it. I think I'm going to leave." And I'm like, "There's a truck stop a few miles from here. Like, go over there." And then I went to sleep and then we woke up and he was gone. I was like, "Oh shit, I was just kidding." I didn't think he was actually going to leave. They ended up catching him. And
I think he might be at the truck stop. Just a hint.
Just a hint. Just saying. He's probably wearing all green. So, but yeah, that was, I think, one of the most challenging parts was just, I was older than them. And then I can see what the drill instructors were trying to achieve by the most part. And I signed up paperwork before I went in that I understood rank structure and, age wasn't going to, they literally made me sign a statement. And so I respected everybody and just
basically just kind of holding them non-liable because of your age and potential injury.
Right. Exactly. That. And then just, I couldn't really, they needed to make sure that I understood I was older and wasn't going to use it to my advantage or belittle them just because they were younger than me by like a long shot.
At 31, could you have done 20 years?
Yes, I could have, which would have put me at 51.
Would that have required a different waiver?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. No, I was set. But and we can get to that portion of it, but I was in 2 car accidents in the tail end of my military career.
While you were in active duty?
When I was on active duty. Yeah.
We'll definitely get to that. Yeah. So you ended up doing how many years total?
8.
So you did a second enlistment?
Right.
How'd that go over with the family?
The second one went well because, I was meritoriously promoted 3 times and, I was jamming. And then I called my brother. This was in, 2012 and 2011 actually. And I said, "Hey, what's the climate like out there?" And he said, "Bro, just stay in. Like, stuff's not, not too good out here." So I said, okay. So I re-enlisted and I got orders to do I&I duty over at a reserve station in Los Alamitos. So it gave me an opportunity. One of the staff sergeants that I knew, he's like, "Look, you're a little bit older. You got to start thinking about, what you're going to do after the Marine Corps." So he recommended I do
I'm going to fashion school.
Yeah, which was, when I first went in, I got to my unit, I got stung by the fashion world. And even though it was like my passion, I said, "You know what, maybe I'll put that aside and we'll just see where this takes me." And I didn't really want a whole lot to do with fashion school. But then I was on ship on the USS Harper's Ferry, and I got caught doodling. I was drawing on my laptop. And
that bug always comes back.
Yeah, it comes back. And next thing you know, I'm designing a plaque for the company commander. I was designing platoon t-shirts, and then there's a plaque I designed that's there in Okinawa in the officers club for the battalion. And
very cool.
The creative stuff just kind of seeped out, but I was trying to hide it from everybody. But, I got caught by Staff Sergeant and Gunny, and then I thought I was in trouble, but they're like, "Damn, this is like really good." And then next thing you know, they're telling the first sergeant, and then it just kind of gets out a little bit. But I suppressed it as much as I could. When I got over to I&I duty, the commanding officer, he said, you're busting your ass. Like, if you're older, if you want to finish up college, like, maybe you could go officer route if you want to stay in. He said, "There's age waivers for everything." He said, "You know that." And he said, "You have my recommendation." And so I was exploring at that time, and I wanted to go to fashion school.
You talked about you started doodling again, but other than that, was there anything that really significant that said, "No, this is what brought it back to the forefront of your mind?" Like, "No, this is where I'm going."
It was so evident. I'd go to the PX and I'd pick up GQ magazine, I'd Vogue, like I'd be where everybody else is, looking at
guns and ammo.
Yeah, guns, ammo and everything. And I'm sitting there looking at, trend, and it was just in me. And that's really what was intriguing to me. So I saw it building up. And then when it came time to make some decisions, because I knew that most people my age were retiring, that I needed to find some direction quickly. And I knew, especially after the first accident, it happened on 11/12/13. That shook me like really bad. I was on the 210 freeway leaving the battalion headquarters, and I was going about 75, and a car lost control, comes at me head on, and it goes in the carpool lane. I was in the fast lane, and it hits me with its rear bumper.
Oh, wow.
And mind you, I was training for an Ironman. So I was like running, biking, lifting, like just like a madman. And I think that's what the doctor said saved me, because I took a big hit on the freeway.
How bad were you injured?
Yeah, L4, L5. I mean, after the impact, I got out and I went to go help the other gal who hit me, and I was walking. It was weird. I went into the emergency room, and they saw how fast I was going, and they put a neck brace on me. And at the time, I was a hard charging Marine at the time, and I'm like, get this shit off me. But yeah, I knew like 2 days later, I couldn't move. Yeah.
Surgery?
I did not need surgery. I fought it. But I went through physical therapy, chiropractor, everything. And, about a month and a half later, I was out in the field, in my gear. And I remember I was in so much pain after the training. I would put rocks on the floor, on the ground, and just sharp rocks just to
lay on them.
Yep.
What long term? Do you still have issues with your back?
Yeah, still have. Yep.
You can end up having surgery, or
I'm gonna continue to fight it. Yeah, as long as I can. But yeah, I still do the cortisone shots and still, going to get treatment and whatnot through the VA. But it's something you kind of learn to live with. But it made an impact on me staying, getting out. Especially the second accident, I was in the reserve component for 6 months. And I actually didn't even tell, to this day I haven't told the gunny like why I checked out. But then it was a non-obligated service, so I was just going month to month, and I couldn't pick anybody up anymore, especially after that second accident. That was it. It was checkmate.
How bad were you injured in the second one? Or was it just aggravating the first one?
Yeah, it aggravated the first one, but it was a collision on 8th and Hill, downtown LA. A car took a red light and it stopped me. I didn't even hit the brake. I was going about 40. Maybe.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So it was another like solid hit.
Yeah, you don't do it halfway.
No.
Kind of like a Marine. I'm going to do it 100%.
Yeah. I either have to, no brakes, all gas. Literally, geez, just my luck. But yeah, then I knew that, there was no way. We had the combat fitness test a month later, and there's just no way. And then I extended it into February, and yeah, I knew my body was just could not handle the rigors of the infantry. So I just checked out.
So you came out what year?
2016.
And was your plan to go immediately to fashion school?
I was on active duty when I was going to fashion school.
Oh, so you were still active while you started?
Yep. Well, I started. So the CO and first sergeant would tell the colonel that I was there with them, and then I would go over to fashion school certain days, but they'd give me like extra every weekend duty. We would do a lot of funerals, so I was on a lot of additional funerals, and so they gave me an opportunity, but they also like balanced it off with, okay, the time that I was away, I had to make up for it.
But did you start it before you exited out because you knew you were going to be exiting out? So you're like, I need to start this process?
Right. Yep, I needed to start the process, and I didn't see myself going back to Cal State, Northridge, or any other traditional school. I kept, going in. I mean, when I finally applied to fashion school, my final interview was the guy that interviewed me and accepted me was a corporal in the Marine Corps. So he was over in Okinawa, and he kind of shot it to me straight. And I fit in, perfectly because of him. And then from there, I just kept moving.
Did you find that there were a lot of veterans while you were at?
There was a few. There weren't very many, but it was a tight-knit community, and then there was a veteran club. And so I became active in the club and ended up becoming president of that club for 3 years. And that's really where I found purpose of supporting and helping veterans. And I knew that if I did my job right, when I transitioned out, I'd have a place to go to if I needed, help. And thank God I did that, because it would have been, a lot worse.
So how much of it were you able to get done while you were still active?
I was able to almost finish one program, and then when I got out, I finished an additional 2. Yeah. So I have 3 degrees from fashion school.
So this may sound like a silly question. Is it a bachelor's degree?
They're professional designations.
Okay.
They cost way more than a bachelor's. But I did apparel industry management, advanced study in menswear. And there was like 7 students in that program, and then advanced study in denim.
So for somebody who's thinking about going to fashion school, when you say advanced study in denim, what does that entail?
Total immersion in that topic. And really, like, it goes from networking to, everywhere from learning about cotton and how it's grown and turned into, the cotton fiber turned into a yarn, and all the way through the marketing process. So it teaches you business. It teaches you design. Design, you either have it or you don't. But you get to learn the tools to be able to draw with the computer and then really relate it over to a garment.
So if somebody has an interest in designing fashion, but for whatever reason, they don't have the artistic side to be able to draw it and design, could they still go to fashion school?
Absolutely. I was one of them. Yeah. I could barely understand my name when I write it. And one of my professors, on every freaking homework, he'd be poor line quality, and then I have nerve damage on my hand, so that doesn't help.
Is that from the accidents?
Yeah, from the accidents. And it started with the 240. I used to just pick it up like a pistol. Which, if you're going in, don't do that, because it has long-term effects. But anyways, so I was really horrible at drawing like freehand. But on my ideas, when I used a computer, like, I would be able to express myself that way.
So at what point, or did you get a mentor or somebody to kind of guide you from the outside?
Well, there at fashion school is where I was mentored by Mr. Hoover, and then some of my other professors that, introduced me to the factory that, I've been using, and who mentored me. And he was a pattern maker for Double RL, and been doing, Fear of God when they started, and a lot of, he does jackets for Tom Ford. So I got to learn quality, and, I got mentors there at fashion school. Otherwise, and again, if you think back to my earlier statement, I knew that the answers I was looking for were there, and no shit, the answers I needed were there. I just needed to figure out how I was going to get there, how I was going to pay for it. And that just happened to go via a Marine Corps recruiter. And that's how I was able to finally get my answers. Otherwise, I don't think it would have happened.
Now, when did you actually decide you were going to start your own company?
When I was there at school, I was interviewing with other companies, and I just didn't fit in, and mind you, I was interviewing when I was still on active duty, and just the mindset of the other employers and just the environment, I just did not fit in.
Are you trying to say an active duty Marine doesn't fit into the fashion industry?
This one didn't at the time. Now I'm there. I'm alive and well. But at the time when and if you're in law enforcement or military, you understand what I'm talking about. Because we're used to a certain type of culture, and those of us that pushed a little bit harder than our peers, there's a certain dynamic that attracts us and an environment where we excel in. Those of which I did not find in most of the fashion industry. There was one company, Majestic, that I was chatting with, and it was measuring the baseball players and working with their uniforms, which is kind of cool. And I was thinking about that, but, again, there was a lot of travel, and, I didn't want to do another deployment. I just wanted to be home. And so I decided to just do my own company. And one of my professors is like, I mean, you were the top menswear designer. Like, you've got it. Just try it. So, I mean, when I was on active duty, I bought an Airstream trailer, gutted it, turned it into a mobile store with the help of Marines. And then, my stepdad, and was just making clothes myself and selling them at the Rose Bowl flea market up in Santa Barbara, and just pulling that thing, the shiny Twinkie, up and down California.
That had to keep you busy.
It did. It kept me busy every weekend. And then when I was in the Denim program, I was selling my homework. So I was like showing up on Monday, and they're like, all right, where's your project? And I was like, I sold the denim shirt. And they're like, are you serious?
I need the money.
I was like, yeah, literally. Like, I'm like, that's what this program's about, right? So then for the final, the director said, look, do me a favor and just don't sell it, because you need something to show. So I was like, okay, cool.
What was the first major brand or major store that you were in, and did you feel that you had made it at that point?
When we got the call from Nordstrom and they launched us online, I kind of felt that, all right, like, I'm in the big leagues. Like, I'm here with the big brands.
Now, did you go seeking them out, or did they come looking for you?
No, they came looking for me. When I showed right before the shutdown, Project 2020 in Las Vegas, which is a fashion convention, I showed this jean that I designed for a Marine who lost his leg in Afghanistan.
Is that the one with the zipper?
Zippers.
I saw the article. That's where I first learned about you, is I saw the article they were talking about those jeans.
Mm-hmm. So I met him through Emerging Vets and Players and Operation Jump 22. I had a little booth there in Oceanside, and he looked fashionable, and he was like, man, I'd love to wear your jeans, but he said, I can't because of my prosthetic. It's very uncomfortable. And I saw him again at the Marine Corps birthday, and then I said, there's something that we can do. I'm sure I'll figure it out. And fast forward, I went through a really rough time. That was in 2019. I got my truck repoed, I had a warehouse and lost that, and I said, the last thing I do, I'm going to make a jean for this Marine. And I borrowed a car to go to LA, and I met him and his wife, and within 48 hours, we had a jean for him. So he comes back, and apparently it made his daily life easier, and then he can now like feel normal in public, is what he tells me. And then, so fast forward to Project 2020, he ends up, and mind you, he lost his left leg and left eye in Afghanistan. And he drove himself from Temecula to Vegas, shows up and is like, hey, I'm here to help you out. I was like, holy crap. Okay. It was just super impactful for me, again, finding purpose. Right. And, come to find out, we end up being on the cover of California Apparel News, American Pride, with him on the cover and the story about us. And then Rivet Magazine, it was Diesel, Seven for All Mankind, G-Star, and Trinidad3 were the Rivet Award winners. And for those of you who don't know, those are really large companies, really influential in the fashion world.
They kind of make a little bit of denim.
Yeah, a lot of it, a lot of denim. Hundreds of millions of dollars worth of denim between all of them, and little old me. So, no, but that jean was, really impactful. He was there, and then we caught the eye of Nordstrom. So then they booked an appointment for us on March 5th. I'll never forget that. March 5th, 2020. So I fly up March 4th in the morning. I go over to Staples. It was already 4:30 in the afternoon, and getting the last little things I needed for this was it, my meeting with Nordstrom. We get a phone call that our meeting's canceled. They shut everything down in Seattle because of COVID. Yep. So I'm up there.
You're like, I've got a mask.
Yeah, I had everything. I was willing to put on the gas mask from the Corps, like everything. But then one of the guys that was on the buying team, he was a Marine Corps veteran, and he was like, look, I know, you came all this way, like nothing official, but he said, you guys are Marines, so I want to come out and take a look at your stuff. So straight up Chicano style, out of the trunk of a rental on the street was the first presentation for one of the Nordstrom people. And
hey, if you're going to do it, keep it real, right?
Oh, I was like, man, I thought I like graduated from this, but here we go. But I knew how to do it, right?
Been there, done that.
Been there, done that. So, yeah, pedaling in the street again. But, yeah.
To Nordstrom.
Yep. And then that's when, so he took a look at it, and then kind of the world shut down. I had some jeans that I made right before the shutdown, so we launched those online during one of the worst economic times in U.S. history. So I had people from the industry like emailing me like, are you nuts? And then one guy from the show had said, look, if you could sell a jean this week, you can sell a jean anytime. Because this is like, honestly, he said, this is the worst time to launch anything. But, we're Marines, so we went right into the fire, and we sold jeans. The moment our factory turned over to making masks. So I donated my time. We shipped over about 80,000 masks to hospitals, and this was in April 2020. So masks, you couldn't get a mask.
Right.
And then the moment that we could open up again, there was right before the shutdown, complete shutdown, Vidalia Mills shipped me salvage denim from the first run that they had. So it arrived, but their Huntington Park Police Department, because we manufacture Huntington Park, they would come in and they were checking who was like making garments when you weren't supposed to. And, they were coming daily. And of course we weren't pushing that at all. So the moment that it opened up and they said we can produce garments again, I made jeans and we launched it on the 4th of July.
Of 2020?
2020.
Very cool.
Once again, salvage denim, the middle of summer, online.
That's what everybody's looking for.
Everyone's looking for denim in summer, right? Yeah. So I get a flood of emails once again, and we ended up selling out. We sold out. And then from there, we made enough money to do the only trade show in the United States, which was in Dallas. And it was August of 2020. Yep. So we were producing here locally so we could fulfill. We had about 10 appointments that we made with retailers, and we sold to 8 stores. We delivered within a couple weeks, and then from there it just started the
steamroller.
The steamroller, when people were having supply chain issues, like our zippers are made in Anaheim. We're sourcing denim locally. So, I mean,
now is that a goal of yours, or was that a business model that you wanted to be fully American from product to production?
From when I was
or materials
in school,
to production.
Right. When I was in school, that was my business plan, like cone mills. Because the American jean has somewhat faded away. It's predominantly imported. Those brands that are producing here, I have mad respect for all of them that are keeping it alive. But on a global scale, and even here in the United States, most people want made in USA. They just don't want to pay for it. And that's always been, the challenge. And there's great product made, overseas as well. So I'm not knocking everything that's, produced overseas, but I wanted to be made, solely here. But as the brand's growing and the limitations of, larger factories and everything, we're going to maybe be forced to import in the near future, but, we'll keep it as close as we can. And there's certain things that just aren't produced here anymore. So, there's some chino fabric and other things that we have to, we're bringing in from Spain, Italy, some things that we bring in from Japan. So we're bringing, and they all use American cotton. So we're just buying our cotton back. So
going through a middleman to get it back to the United States.
Pretty much. We're making it happen. And, but again, I'm going to continue. I'm not going to give up on it. We're going to keep pushing the Made in USA side for those that appreciate it. And hope to be a pioneer of that, especially, abroad. And just recently we opened up our first store retail account in Amsterdam. So they didn't know that there's American salvage denim again. And we were the first to let them know. And so it's kind of cool to be a part of, American denim history.
Because is Japan kind of the leader in selvage denim?
Japan is the leader in selvage. Their craftsmanship is and attention to detail. I mean, it's just, they're producing amazing stuff out there. But heritage and historically, it's one of the most iconic American pieces in U.S. history, and it's not produced here on a large scale.
But like you said, it's because of the cost associated with producing it.
Exactly. The cost, labor is the big one. So it's hard to compete with labor from other countries. But yeah, Japan, they do amazing work. I went down there as a student in the denim program. So I went to a couple mills. I did see large bales of U.S. cotton. And, when I served, I served in Japan. So I was out there in Okinawa a couple times, trained at Camp Fuji. So
you're like, hey, since I'm here.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll take a little vacation.
I've been around here before. It's kind of nice to go in human clothes for once. But no, they do great work in Japan. So they certainly are a leader in selvage denim. I think here in the United States with the Vidalia mills, turning on those, acquiring the machines from Cone, from the White Oak plant, I think they're going to do some great work and bring that back. And they're already in production. They're running 2 shifts on these machines that were built in 40s, 50s, 60s. So, those that don't, know, like, look them up. Vidalia Mills, iconic American denim. And then I play a small role in that. I say small, but I think it's a lot bigger.
Are they merely a supplier of denim?
They're a mill that makes yarns, and they produce denim. Yeah. So, but I think they want to be a leader in denim, and they want to sell yarns. So that way, when it goes to other countries, instead of bales of cotton, it can go out, they can buy yarns already completed. So they work with farmers from the area, with BASF. They have a program called E3 Sustainable Cotton. And I got to meet cotton farmers. So the Hardwick family, got to finally sit down and meet with, people that are growing the cotton, and they finally got to meet a designer. So it's just the dynamic of what's happening is really powerful. And I think for this time and that resurgence of something that we, as iconic as a blue jean, to be a part of that is just, for me, extremely important. We're going to keep, going down that path. I think as the people are more aware of it, maybe they'll jump on, but it is more expensive.
Your long-term goal, do you hope to keep your production here in California, or is that cost prohibitive?
It's getting harder and harder. Yeah. By the month. And, but we're going to keep fighting, that's my intent. I think here in California, it breeds creativity. It's still the entertainment capital of the world. So there's a lot of stuff going on, which is kind of good to pull inspiration from and for design purposes. But no, I mean, I've looked at, Texas, out in Louisiana as well. They're looking at building a sewing factory there in the mill. So, there's a lot of exciting opportunities coming up. So that way we close the loop where from farm turning into yarns and cut sew all within, 10, 15 miles, if we can, is the goal. Because it cuts on we get our tree hugging part out of the way. The carbon footprint, gets put down. It's more efficient. And, but here in California, it's getting challenging.
And I would imagine it's almost a double-edged sword in that you get a large company like a Nordstrom that says, hey, we want your product, but now you have to increase production to meet those demands. As far as keeping that going, how difficult is that?
It's a challenge, but like streamlining the product line for that, I think is key in what we've done in our product mix. Finding skilled workers here locally is going to continue because most people don't go to school to become a production sewer. So it's, until we can fix that, I think that's going to be our biggest obstacle is just finding skilled workers, where right now we're relying heavily on people coming from other countries to sew here for us,
This is definitely going to sound like a stupid question. So it's not something that, I know your line is more than just jeans, but I'm just focusing on jeans. Can that not be done completely automated, or do you not want it completely automated?
Yeah, no, it still has to be handcrafted. Yep. There's certain parts that can be automated, and there are companies that are spearheading that. But it still has to flow through the needle and the hand. Yeah. Which, yeah, there's just no way around it to this point. Yeah.
Now, I know you're very involved in the veteran community.
Yes.
And your clothing line even alludes to or ties back to your Marine Corps time. Is that something this may sound rhetorical, is it very important for you to keep moving that forward as far as the veteran community and your company?
That is the most important part of this, is being able to make an impact. So we participate, advocate, and donate when we can, because that's what I found purpose as a student, to help other veterans, and I needed the help. And I know it's real. I serve with 2-7, and our suicide rate in that battalion is, it's ridiculous. And so I know there's something that needs to be done to inspire other veterans to pursue or find purpose and pursue whatever their passion is. And I think that's what keeps me going. We just happen to make great jeans, but that's what gets me up every day. I would like to, continue to provide jeans for veteran amputees, and that has been the most rewarding thing I've done, way more rewarding than, and I told the head buyer from Nordstrom, and my sales rep was like, dude, why'd you say that? But what I told him was like, I'm already successful because I was able to change the life of a Marine. And whether you buy from me or not, what's most important to me is that you're on board with my mission, because at the end of the day, that's what pushes me forward. And I know that's where I can make an impact. For some reason, I was an infantryman. I ended up on ship twice, and I didn't go to Iraq or Afghanistan. And I was struggling with wow, well, what happened? I was in the middle of a war, and what was all this about? And now that I'm on this side of the fence, I've come to accept and know without a doubt I'm here just as I was placed with my battalion that just got back from Afghanistan and struggled, and they were venting to me because I was older and I was able to be there for them. I can continue that now. And to inspire, veterans and make a difference in our community, to me, is the most important thing. This is why we're doing it, hands down. And no matter what, I was no resources. I figured out how to make a jean for Marine, and moving forward, what I tell all of our retailers and everybody that I do business with is what's most important to me is that I could have a beer with you and that you're supporting my mission, because I'm really active in my community, and, I stay in close contact with Marines that I serve with, and now organizations that I'm very active with, mainly right now, Emerging Vets and Players. I've been really close with them for years. And, so that's what's going to keep me going. What's most important. How we get there is not as important, how we figure out how to, make money or be able to fulfill demand in the marketplace, because the denim world is a global market. And if I can pioneer and spearhead American denim, that's my passion. But what's more important, be able to provide jeans for amputees and make a difference in the veteran community, or just sticking to Made in USA, So to me, the mission has priority. So how we get there may or may not change. And if you look at, all of our competitors, you'll find maybe a handful, if that are, making here. And one of my competitors, I really love the fact that they hired one of my buddies, a Navy veteran, and they're one of the largest factories in LA, and they're doing great things, fighting the fight. Hopefully they can keep that up. But overall, we're like I said, we're now moving into Europe and expanding our horizons, but at the same time, what's in the back of my mind is being able to show by example that you can take the uniform off and go out and find purpose, find passion, and live life. I went to the cemetery with my mom not too long ago, and I noticed that there was people that lived to be 40, 60, and they've been dead for over 100 years. So it's inevitable that we're going to be dead longer than we're alive. And as veterans, we need to understand that, don't rush that date. There's no hurry for that. This can be fixed. And I'm an example. And there's other veterans out there that are very successful that we can also, lean on for inspiration or guidance. And then if people are struggling, like we've all struggled, regardless, you went to Iraq, Afghanistan, if you served, you're in law enforcement, there's a change. And anytime there's a change, there's an adjustment that needs to happen. And you either adapt and overcome or you struggle. And what I'm advocating is that you can adapt and overcome, but you have to find purpose and you have to find your passion, who you were before you, like me, I was a kid dreaming about fashion before I put on the uniform, So what happens when we get out of that uniform? What happened to that kid? You just die off.
Don't let your dreams die.
No, don't let your dreams die. You got to keep reconnect with that, and it doesn't matter where you're at in your career, whether you do 30 in law enforcement, 20, 30 in the military, you're going to get out. You still have life to live. And it can be anything, literally anything. If you like collecting leaves and that's your passion, go for it. But you got to find something. Sitting around at home, moping around, or just drinking yourself to literally death doesn't do anything positive.
For those that don't know the group already, Merging
Vets and Players.
What is that organization?
Yeah, it was founded by Jay Glazer and Nate Boyer. And what they do is they take combat veterans and former professional athletes, and they do a workout, and then they have what's called a huddle. And in that huddle, you're able to get things off your chest. It's a peer-to-peer network, and they meet weekly, and they hold each other accountable. So if anybody's struggling or they need help, and just being in that environment again, for me, I was able to go back and I'm doing push-ups with the corporal from my platoon. He's now the program manager in LA. A guy that yelled at me and made me dig a fighting hole. And Sergio, I'm calling you out with the MRE spoon in the desert, in the wind. But no, I feel that, that camaraderie again, cause that's what we miss really.
Right.
And I remember, Gunny Johnson would be like, oh, you guys are complaining about the Marine Corps, the big Marine Corps. The Marine Corps is here. It's you guys. Look at it from that perspective. And really, that's what I miss, about the Marine Corps more than anything. Is just my brothers to the left and right. And so with this program, I'm able to, and then obviously being involved in sports, we would look up to these guys, but then we find out that the transition is very similar, minus a few $1 million with some of them, but still what they go through is very similar to us. So then when we're able to get together and talk about it, and we can see that, oh, wow, this guy that I used to watch on TV on a deployment, the USO played the Super Bowl for us over, and we were out in the jungles of Thailand. And then to see some of the guys that I looked up with, or that would take us, and I think you can relate to this from law enforcement, take us out of the fight, if you will, right? So that's the power of sports. So to be a part of this organization that does that and is consistent with it, and that's the key, consistency. There's a lot of organizations doing a lot of great stuff, but the key is finding consistency. To me, has been probably the most helpful tool that I've used. So again, you got to plug into community, because once you find somebody that understands you and you find that camaraderie again, that's going to help tremendously, more than any alcohol or any pill the VA or people can give you. That is the most powerful medicine to progress.
And to always remember, the only thing I would add to that is that more people need you here, and to not forget that there are those that are out there that are pulling for you.
Right.
And you know, the biggest thing that I think we need to work on is getting rid of that stigma that asking for help means you failed. It doesn't mean you failed. It just means you need help. That's all. And don't be so, you know, the gung-ho Marine.
Yep.
I can do this by myself. No, ask for help if you need it.
Yep. And we all need help. And that's one thing we need to get over, because when you don't ask for help, that's failing. And so just changing the narrative of what really is successful and what is failure. So if you're not asking for help, because if you're like stuck and there's no forward progress, and you're not asking for help, that's failure. Asking for help to propel forward, that's success. And I think we need to do a better job in changing the narrative, you know, and then because we hear a lot about, you know, the suicide rates and all the negative stuff. And I think subconsciously it's kind of like planting a negative seed in people transitioning's minds. But if we tell more of the success stories and really what success looks like and what failure really is, because we have a misconception that asking for help is failing, then I think we change that. Then I think we'll start moving forward.
Well, and to use your story as an example, and I don't mean to undervalue this in any way at all, but you're a prime example of ups and downs, but yet keep moving forward and keep pushing towards the goal of your mission.
Absolutely, 100%. You have to keep pushing. And the way I'm able to do it is I found purpose. And then when I am down, I have buddies to my left and right to this day. If they don't hear from me for a day or two, they're like, hey, how you doing? Simple as that, you know, and then being vulnerable. And that's what I learned, you know, through Jay Glazer, Nate, and MVP, is that being okay with being messed up and just like saying it. And it's okay. Like you get through it. And it's weird how that magic, you know, kind of happens, but plugging in and just being connected and really like keeping your eyes on that mission, because it's anything that you do that's outside the quote unquote norm, especially entrepreneurship, is going to push you way beyond limits that you even felt you did while you were in service. And it's unknown territory for a lot of us, but that's what keeps me going. Now we're in 60 stores, Nordstrom.com. And, you know, it's, growth is scary. Like I mentioned before, like, holy shit, we're not in Kansas anymore. And why are there multi-million-dollar companies all around me? Cause I'm so focused on my mission. And when I pop my head up and look around, I'm like, wow, yeah. And now
I'm swimming with the sharks. No pun intended.
No, I am. I mean, when I have like large brands, you know, coming into retailers that I've stolen shelf space with, and they're offering things that I just can't, to try to push me out. I'm like, all right, I must be doing something right. And again, like when I get stuck, I just ask for help. Like, I don't know. I'm a designer, you know, I'll design you a collection like no other. I'll compete with any major designer on the runway out there. But when it comes to the business side, the transitional struggle, like Jay Glazer says, the roommates in my head that, you know, mess with me daily. That's when I just, you know, just like when you have a jam, what do? Tap, rack, bang, you know? Same thing. We got to learn how to tap, rack, bang with our brain housing group. And for me, what that looks like is, you know, calling up my buddy and just being like, hey bro, I'm struggling right now. And then we figure it out, talk about it a little bit, get off my chest, you know, drink water, change your socks, and keep moving.
Well, you bring up a great analogy, and all of us who have been on the firing line have heard this. Work the problem, clear the malfunction.
Yeah.
Don't just stand there and do nothing. Work the problem, clear the malfunction. If you can't fix it yourself, raise your hand, get a range master down there to assist you. Same thing. If you need help with the Rubik's Cube between your ears, ask for some help.
Yep. But for some reason, we feel that that's failure. That's weak. That is not weak. That is strength. And that's what I've learned. I wasn't like this before. When I was in fashion school, I failed 3 quarters in a row. I was at the desk of the dean and about to get kicked out.
Was it because of your headspace and not being focused?
My brain housing group. Yep. My transition, my anxiety. Like I didn't know what the heck was happening to me. I was just spiraling out. I was like, great, fine, on active duty, president of the club, doing all these events. We were chapter of the month out of 2,000 schools through the SVA, and I was jamming. Then all of a sudden, boom, hit a wall, and wouldn't open up about it. Just held it. And until I learned that and told myself that is being weak, that's weakness, that's failure, and I changed that mindset, then I was able to keep moving, keep moving forward.
Looking back on that in hindsight, did your wife see it in you and
Yes.
and call you out on it, and even then you still denied it?
The people that are closest to you, you don't want to hurt them. So you hide it as much as you can, or you will isolate yourself to keep yourself away. So this was my isolation space here, and I didn't want them to see me burning. But of course, there's only so much you can hide, and then you turn into a zombie, and, the VA dumps you with pills, and you're just trying to figure stuff out. And it wasn't until I accepted that, like, once I figure it out, then what? And I'm like, wait a minute. Yeah, that's right. Like, okay, I have it figured out. Now what am I going to do? You don't think about that step. You're just trying to figure something out. But really, what you need to figure out is that it's okay not to know. And it's okay and really empowering to reach out for help of other people that have gone through what you've gone through. And so here, my wife and my kids, they, God bless them for sticking with me through the whole thing. But we all, without us wanting to, do some damage on the home front, and a lot of it, we think we're protecting them by pushing them away, but
we're not.
No, we're not.
We're in a way traumatizing them even more, because they're feeling helpless. Like they could probably see it, and they don't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so you're putting them out on an island of, well, who do I turn to?
Well, and that's how it really is in society. Really, like when we transition out, there's people that want to help, but a lot of them don't know how, and we shut them out. So like there's no progress being made whatsoever. And I think when I was interviewing with these companies, same thing, like I was going through stuff, and I knew in my head, I was telling myself like, no, they don't get me. Like, I'm just not even going to go here. But when I started to open up and surround myself with the right team and right people and organizations, and then even like being and explaining to my wife and family, like what I'm going through. And it wasn't until my dad, he lives out in Florida, he came back over here, and he's a Vietnam vet. He knew exactly what I was going through, and I remember like the stuff that we went through growing up. And now I'm like, oh shit. Yeah, it was his transition he was struggling with. That's what it was. And he was holding it, and we took the brunt of it. So just trying to break that cycle and really being more open-minded as to how to approach this. What is that tap, rack, bang? Like, what does it look like? Because there's no real manual for it.
Everybody's different.
Yeah. Everybody's slightly is different in their approach. But one common denominator is, and I think that most can say, is that we're really good at shutting the world out and clamming up. And we're really good at not being vulnerable because we don't want to show our scars, because our families look up to us, because we're in the uniform, we served our country, continue to serve there in law enforcement. And then they look at us as superheroes. And that was the image that we want to keep. Mm-hmm. But I think, when I had a conversation with my son and then I started explaining to my wife what was going on, then things started to change. And I think that being vulnerable, which is really, I can say, being strong, is, and what that looks like is just being honest with those that love you and want to support you, and asking for, if you don't like asking for help, ask for guidance. Like, just change the damn word, and maybe that'll, whatever it is. Some people like Glock, some people like SIGs, whatever it is, but find what that is for you and works for you. And I guarantee you will see forward progress. Why? Because if my dumb ass could do it, anyone else can, and really there's no like magic sauce, magic trick to, what I'm doing outside of some of my creative work that I, don't mean to toot my own horn, but, I know I'm really good at that. Outside of that, it's just sheer finding purpose, and just going after, staying focused, asking for help, and going after that goal.
Is there the next component of the fashion world that you haven't stepped into yet that's your goal?
Yes. Yeah. Like growing the brand on a more of a national and international stage is what I want to, step in the realm of, where we're producing, hundreds of thousands of units, and really, because I know if I get there, I'll be able to make a bigger impact in my community, because, it takes finance, it takes money to do it, but I've been able to do it with practically nothing. So I know that the more successful I am financially, I can make a bigger impact in my community. And the more stores that we're sold at, the bigger the brand gets, we can continue to tell this message and really make that impact. And even, on a global scale, like, why not? Your
motivation is truly commendable. And I do believe people often make fun of it or underplay it, but your motivations are pure, and your goals are to give back. And because there's that honesty in your purpose, I do believe you're going to get to where you want to get to, because you're not looking out for simply yourself. You're looking to, I want to succeed because I want to give back. And it's that giving back that's going to bring you forward tenfold.
Yeah. Well, I told Nordstrom, I'm already successful, like in my terms, I want to be what does success look like to me? And that's what it's rooted in. It's rooted in service. And if I could be more of service, then that fulfills me. I get my personal like fix, and I design stuff, and that's my creative space. That's my briar patch, if you will. But to be able to like grow this company where I can hire more veterans, like point people in the right direction, help them, get from point A to point B, and just make life better, for our community. And it goes, a lot of veterans are in law enforcement, so they all go hand in hand. So the fact that, you're doing this work, and including military and law enforcement, I mean, it's huge. It's huge. It's very important.
Well, I appreciate it. Taking you backwards, mm-hmm. You're starting down imagine you're the younger you, and you're starting down your fashion journey. For somebody who's in those shoes today, what's the few key pieces of advice that you would definitely want them to know?
Number one, get the training, like go to fashion school if you can. Figure it out. There's ways, to do it. But go to fashion school, get the training you need, and above all, like find your purpose, whatever it is. Like I said, if it's collecting leaves or like, saving ducks or whatever the case is, just find that purpose.
What are the pitfalls to look out for getting into the fashion industry?
Really being like honed in on the end state and not the journey. I think a lot of times it's really about the journey and we overlook it through stress. Everyone that goes to fashion school dreams of being that famous designer. And, you know, I'm not saying it's impossible, but, you know, like go down that path, but enjoy that journey. And a lot of times like finding out where you fit in this spectrum, because it's a large industry. So getting the training, knowing the path. And then I think what I've lacked on is like trying to enjoy the journey and the financial component, especially of entrepreneurs, people that want to start their own companies and do things. Like you really have to have a strong financial like outlook, because that is going to be your biggest stressor. So being underfunded and trying to achieve things, you know, with nothing, I don't recommend it, but not impossible, you know, and yeah. So does that answer your question?
I believe so.
Yeah.
So how can people get in touch with you if they have any questions?
Trinidad3 Jeans, shoot me an email, t3@trinidad3.com. So through social media, you know, at Trinidad3 Jeans is an easy way. A lot of people are on that. So if anybody needs any kind of guidance or wants to get, you know, more information on how I was able to manage through some of those transitional challenges, or for merging vets and players, like, you know, I'm open. That's what I'm here for. I just happen to make good jeans.
I appreciate your time, sir.
Sure. Thank you.
I appreciate you watching. But before you go, if you like the video, please hit that subscribe button. Also, any comments are appreciated. Thank you.